The massive alien ship appeared outside Earth's orbital station like a silver moon. It was 3 times larger than anything humans had ever built. The vessel belonged to the Galactic Council, the government that ruled over 847 different species across the known galaxy. They had ruled for more than 10,000 years, and nobody questioned their power. Ambassador Zekthor stood in the docking bay of the human station. He was tall, nearly 8 feet, with blue-scaled skin and 4 arms. His species, the Vraxen, had served the Council for 6,000 years. He had personally welcomed 43 species into the Council's embrace. This would be his 44th. Humans were an interesting species. They had only invented faster-than-light travel 6 months ago. They were young, aggressive, and curious. Their planet was beautiful, covered in blue oceans and green lands. But beauty did not matter. What mattered was that they would soon learn their place in the galactic order. Secretary General Maria Chen walked forward to greet him. She was a small woman compared to Zekthor, barely reaching his chest. Her dark hair was pulled back and her face showed no emotion. Behind her stood 12 other humans, representatives from different nations that had finally united their world. "Welcome to Earth Station 1, Maria said. Her voice was steady and clear. "We are honored by your presence." Zekthor made a gesture that his species used for greeting. "The honor is the Council's. Today marks a great day for humanity. Today you join the galactic community." The ceremony began in the main conference hall. Hundreds of humans watched from behind glass windows. This moment was being broadcast to every corner of Earth. 5 billion people were watching their leaders meet with aliens for the first time. Zekthor activated a holographic display. It showed the Galactic Council's symbol, a circle with 847 stars. For 10,000 years, the Council has maintained peace across the galaxy. We protect the trade routes. We settle disputes between species. We ensure that civilization thrives. Maria and the other human leaders listened carefully. They had studied everything they could about the Council over the past 6 months. They knew what was coming next. "Of course," Zekthor continued, "such protection requires resources. Every species contributes to the Council according to their capabilities. This is the tribute system, and it has served us well for millennia." The hologram changed. It now showed Earth with numbers and percentages floating beside it. "Humanity's contribution will be fair and reasonable," Zekthor said. His voice carried complete confidence. 30% of your rare Earth minerals. These are valuable for building starships and technology. 15% of your agricultural output to feed the workers in the industrial sectors. And finally, 100,000 humans per year for our labor programs. The room became very quiet. Maria's face remained neutral, but her hands gripped the edge of the table. "These humans will work in various capacities across Council space," Zekthor explained. "Mining operations, construction projects, agricultural colonies. They will be well treated according to Council labor standards. After 20 years of service, they may return to Earth if they wish." General Thomas Morrison, Earth's top military commander, leaned toward Maria. 20 years, he whispered. "They're talking about slavery." Maria held up one hand slightly, telling him to wait. "What happens if a species refuses these terms?" asked Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the representative from the Asian Coalition. Zekthor's expression changed. It was the first time he had shown anything other than friendly confidence. "Refusal is not advisable. The Council maintains a fleet of 10,000 warships. We have faced rebellion only once in our history." "What happened to them?" Maria asked. "The Krell were a proud species. They believed they were strong enough to stand alone. They refused the Council's generous terms." Zekthor paused. "The Krell are now extinct. Their homeworld is a monument to the price of foolish pride." The humans looked at each other. The message was clear. Submit or die. "However," Zekthor said, his friendly tone returning, "I do not expect such problems from humanity. You are young but intelligent. You understand that cooperation brings prosperity." Maria stood up from her chair. "Ambassador Zekthor, humanity appreciates the Council's offer. Such an important decision requires careful consideration. We request 48 hours to discuss these terms with our global government." Zekthor was surprised. Most species agreed immediately after seeing the fleet and hearing about the Krell. But he nodded. "Of course, 48 hours is acceptable." This gives you time to understand the benefits of council membership. As the aliens left the station, the human leaders remained in the conference room. Nobody spoke for a long moment. Finally, General Morrison broke the silence. They want 30% of our resources and 100,000 people every year. That's slavery. That's conquest with polite words. They wiped out an entire species for saying no, added Ambassador Carlos Rivera from the South American Union. We have to be realistic about our situation. Maria activated a different holographic display. It showed Earth's military capabilities. 200 warships, the best humanity could build in the past 6 months. Advanced nuclear weapons. Orbital defense platforms. 200 ships against 10,000, said Admiral Park. He was a quiet man who commanded Earth's space fleet. The mathematics are not favorable. Mathematics aren't everything, Maria said quietly. We need to consider what we're fighting for. Dr. Tanaka pulled up historical records from Earth's past. Wars, revolutions, struggles for freedom. Throughout our history, humans have fought against impossible odds when the cause was important enough. But we've also been practical. We've known when to compromise. Is this one of those times? Asked General Morrison. Do we compromise with aliens who want to take our people and our resources? Maria looked out the window at Earth below. The blue planet turned slowly in the darkness of space. Billions of people lived down there. People who had finally stopped fighting each other and united as one species. People who were waiting to hear what their leaders would decide. We spent 200 years uniting Earth, Maria said. 200 years of difficult negotiations, compromises, and building trust. We told our people that we were stronger together. That unity meant we would never bow to tyrants again. She turned to face the council. If we accept these terms, what message does that send? That unity only matters when the tyrant is human. That we only value freedom when the alternative isn't too scary? But if we refuse, Admiral Park said, millions could die. Maybe billions. Can we accept that responsibility? Maria sat down heavily. Call an emergency session of the United Earth Council. Every nation, every leader. We have 48 hours to make the most important decision in human history. As the leaders left to make their calls, Maria remained behind. She looked at the data on the Krell, the species that had said no. The council had destroyed every city, every colony, every ship. Complete annihilation. But the Krell had been alone. They had faced the council with only their own strength. Humanity was young, but humanity had learned something important over the centuries. Sometimes the most powerful weapon was not the biggest gun. Sometimes it was a simple word, spoken with absolute conviction. She just had to convince 7 billion people to stand behind that word. The emergency session of the United Earth Council began exactly 2 hours after the alien ambassador left. Leaders from every nation on Earth appeared through holographic projections in the massive conference chamber in Geneva. This was the same room where humanity had signed the Unity Charter 5 years ago, promising to never wage war against each other again. Now they faced a war unlike any they had imagined. Secretary General Maria Chen stood at the center podium. Around her, 300 faces watched and waited. Some looked afraid. Some looked angry. All of them understood that history would remember this day. We have 46 hours remaining, Maria began. The Galactic Council expects our answer. Before we discuss our decision, I want everyone to understand exactly what we're facing. Admiral James Park stepped forward. He activated a holographic display that showed the Council's fleet. 10,000 warships appeared in the air, each one marked with its capabilities and weapon systems. This is what we know from the data the Council provided, Park said. Each of their capital ships is equivalent to 20 of our vessels in terms of firepower. Their shields are more advanced. Their weapons have longer range. They have antimatter torpedoes, plasma cannons, and energy weapons we're still trying to understand. He pulled up another display. This one showed Earth's defenses. We have 200 operational warships. Another 50 are under construction but won't be ready for months. We have orbital defense platforms around Earth, Mars, and some of the outer colonies. We have nuclear arsenals, though we don't know how effective they'll be against alien shields. What are our chances if we fight? Asked President Chen from the Chinese Federation. Park was quiet for a moment. If they commit their full fleet, we would last approximately 4 days. Maybe a week if we use every weapon and every tactic we have. Our losses would be total. The room filled with worried whispers. Then the choice is obvious, said Prime Minister Okonkwo from the African Union. We cannot fight a war we cannot win. We must accept their terms and hope to negotiate better conditions in the future. Negotiate? General Morrison stood up. Did you see their faces when they talked about the Krell? They don't negotiate with species they consider inferior. They conquer. The only reason they use polite words is because it's easier than fighting. But fighting means death, shouted Chancellor Weber from the European Coalition. You're talking about sacrificing billions of people for pride. I'm talking about freedom, Morrison shot back. What happens to those 100,000 people they take every year? 20 years of labor? That's a generation. That's slavery by any definition. And 30% of our resources means our economy will collapse. We'll be completely dependent on them. Dr. Tanaka raised her hand for silence. As the eldest member of the council and a respected philosopher, people listened when she spoke. We must look at this rationally, she said. Throughout human history, we have faced impossible choices. Sometimes we fought. Sometimes we surrendered. Sometimes we found a third option. The question is not whether we can win a military battle. The question is what we are willing to accept as a species. Maria nodded. Dr. Tanaka is right. Let me present some additional information that our intelligence division has gathered. She activated classified files that only the top military leaders had seen. For the past 6 months since we first made contact with the council, we've been preparing for this possibility. We didn't trust that first contact would be friendly. The display showed research projects with code names like Scorpion, Hammer, and Phoenix. Project Scorpion developed autonomous AI-controlled defense satellites, Maria explained. We have 10,000 of them hidden throughout the solar system. They're small, hard to detect, and each one carries a nuclear payload. Project Hammer created antimatter weapons. We successfully tested 3 prototypes. They're incredibly destructive, though difficult to manufacture. Project Phoenix is our insurance policy. 50 colony ships already loaded with supplies, technology, and genetic samples. They're hidden in the outer solar system. If Earth falls, they'll scatter to the galactic rim. They'll establish hidden colonies and continue fighting using guerrilla tactics. The council members stared at the information in shock. You planned for war, President Ortiz from the South American Union said. While we were celebrating first contact, you were preparing to fight. We hoped for the best, Admiral Park said. But we prepared for the worst. That's basic military strategy. It's also basic survival, added Colonel Sarah Okafor, head of Earth's Intelligence Division. We studied every piece of information about the Council. We analyzed their tribute system. The species that accepted their terms became dependent. Within a generation, they lost the ability to resist. The Council controls their technology, their trade, their future. But they also have peace, said Ambassador Rivera. No wars, no conflicts. Maybe that's worth the price. Peace as slaves, Morrison said. Peace where your children are taken to work in alien mines. That's not peace. That's surrender. The debate continued for hours. The council split into factions. Some argued for acceptance, saying humanity was too young to fight a galactic empire. Others argued for defiance, saying freedom was worth any price. A few suggested trying to run, using the Phoenix ships to evacuate Earth entirely. Dr. Tanaka finally asked the question that silenced everyone. If we refuse and they attack and millions die, can we live with that decision? Can each of us look into the eyes of the people who elected us and say we chose correctly? Maria stood up again. Let me share something with you. A piece of human history. She activated a recording from 1775. An old document appeared written in English. This is from the American Revolution. A man named Patrick Henry said these words to his fellow colonists. Give me liberty or give me death. They were facing the most powerful empire in their world. They were farmers and merchants against professional soldiers. By all logic, they should have accepted British rule. Instead, they fought, and they won. That was different, someone argued. They were all humans. This is aliens with technology we can barely understand. The principle is the same, Maria said. Throughout our history, humans have shown one consistent trait. We resist. Even when resistance seems impossible, we resist. We fought against kings and emperors. We fought against tyranny and oppression. We united our entire planet under one banner that said we would never bow to tyrants again. She looked around the room at every face. If we accept the Council's terms, what happens to that promise? What do we tell our children? That freedom only matters when the fight is easy? General Morrison pulled up another display. There's something else to consider. The Council rules 847 species. How many of them do you think actually wanted to accept tribute? How many said yes because they were afraid? We could be the first to say no and survive, Colonel Okafor added. If we bloody their nose, if we make them pay a price, maybe other species will find courage too. Or maybe we're just committing suicide and taking other species down with us. Chancellor Weber countered. The vote was called at hour 43. Every leader cast their decision electronically and anonymously. When the results appeared, Maria felt her heart pound. The decision was unanimous. Humanity would refuse. But the room was still full of fear and doubt. We agree to refuse, President Chen said. But how? Do we send a detailed explanation? Do we offer a counterproposal? Do we try to negotiate? Maria had been thinking about this for hours. Throughout human history, some moments were defined by grand speeches and elaborate declarations. But sometimes the most powerful statements were the simplest. We send them one word, Maria said quietly. One word? Ambassador Rivera looked confused. One word that carries our entire history. One word that every human understands in their soul. One word that will make the Council realize we are not like the other species they've conquered. Dr. Tanaka smiled slightly. You're going to terrify them. Yes, Maria said. Because they need to understand something crucial. We know we might lose. We know millions might die. But we're willing to accept that cost rather than surrender our freedom. That's what will terrify them. Not our weapons. Not our tactics. The fact that we would rather die as free people than live as slaves. Admiral Park nodded slowly. When predators hunt, they look for prey that runs. They avoid prey that fights back. Especially prey crazy enough to fight to the death. You want to make them see us as the wrong kind of prey. Exactly, Maria said. We have one advantage they don't expect. We're not rational by their standards. We're human, and humans do impossible things when we're pushed. The Council agreed. The message would be simple. One word that would echo across the galaxy. Now they just had to deliver it in a way that made their conviction absolutely clear. The Galactic Council chamber was magnificent. It floated in space above the Council's capital world, a massive station that could hold 50,000 beings. Today it held representatives from all 847 species. This was Integration Day and the entire galaxy was watching. Ambassador Zekthor stood at his designated platform, confident and relaxed. He had reviewed humanity's file again during the waiting period. They were young, aggressive, and emotional. Perfect candidates for the tribute system. Young species always accepted once they understood the alternative. Around him, other council members prepared for the ceremony. The Vreldak, ancient beings of pure energy, floated in their containment fields. The Thorsian hive mind pulsed with 1,000 voices speaking as one. The mechanical syntheri processed data through quantum computers built into their metal bodies. Every species in this chamber had gone through the same ritual. Every species had eventually said yes. The human representative is connecting, announced the chamber's AI system. A holographic projection appeared in the center of the room. Secretary General Maria Chen stood there, life-sized and clear. Behind her, the image of Earth rotated slowly. The blue planet looked peaceful and beautiful. Zekthor made the gesture of welcome. Secretary General Chen, the Council is pleased to receive your decision. We trust you have had adequate time to consider our generous offer. Maria stood perfectly still. Her face showed no emotion. She wore a simple black suit with Earth's new planetary flag, a blue circle on a white background on her shoulder. The human species has carefully reviewed the Galactic Council's proposal, Maria said. Her voice was calm and clear, transmitted to every corner of the galaxy. We have discussed it with our leaders, our scientists, our philosophers, and our people. Zekthor nodded. And Maria paused. The pause lasted exactly 5 seconds. In that silence, billions of beings across the galaxy waited. Then she spoke one word. No. The single syllable hung in the air like a physical thing. The council chamber, which had held thousands of conversations simultaneously, went completely silent. Zekthor tilted his head. His translator must have malfunctioned. I apologize, but there seems to be a communication error. Could you repeat your response? No, Maria said again. The answer is no. No to which specific terms? Zekthor asked. His voice remained polite, but his posture had changed. We can discuss modifications to the tribute requirements. Perhaps 25% of minerals instead of 30, or 80,000 people instead of 100,000. You misunderstand, Maria said. No is our complete response. No to the tribute. No to giving you our resources. No to sending our people to your labor programs. No to accepting the Council's authority over Earth. No to all of it. The Council chamber erupted. Representatives from hundreds of species began speaking at once in thousands of different languages. The translator system struggled to keep up. Impossible, shouted a Vreldak elder. No species refuses. They don't understand what they're doing, hissed a Thorsian collective. They are too young. Zekthor raised all four of his arms, calling for silence. The chamber slowly quieted. He looked at Maria with an expression that might have been concern or confusion. Secretary General Chen, he said carefully, perhaps you do not fully understand the situation. The Council maintains a fleet of 10,000 warships. Earth has 200. This is not a negotiation between equals. We understand perfectly, Maria replied. We know your fleet. We know your weapons. We know what happened to the Krell. Then you understand that refusal means war. War that you cannot win. Winning and surviving are not the same thing, Maria said. And there are things worse than death. A council member named Vexkol, the military coordinator, stepped forward. He was a Krithian, a species that looked like armored bears standing upright. His species had led the Council's military forces for 2,000 years. Humanity is making a catastrophic error. Vexkol growled. You have 200 ships. We have 10,000. You have primitive nuclear weapons. We have antimatter and plasma. This will not be a war. It will be an execution. Maria's expression finally changed. She smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. It was the smile of someone who knew a secret. You're right, she said. You will probably destroy us. You have more ships, better weapons, superior technology. But here's what you don't understand about humans. We know we'll probably lose. We're doing it anyway. That's insane, said a council member from the Plenary species. Why would you choose certain death over survival? Because survival means becoming slaves, Maria said. Because survival means watching our children taken away. Because survival means giving up everything that makes us human. And humans have a saying, General Vexkol. We would rather die on our feet than live on our knees. She stepped forward and her hologram seemed to grow larger. Let me tell you about humans. In our history, we've faced impossible odds countless times. We've fought against empires, against nature, against ourselves. Sometimes we lost, but we never stopped fighting. We had a war on Earth called World War II. 50 million humans died. Cities were destroyed, but we kept fighting. We had weapons that could split atoms and burn entire cities in seconds. We used them, knowing the horror they would cause. We fought wars that lasted decades. Wars where soldiers marched through frozen winters and burning deserts. Wars where people starved and suffered and died. And at the end, when someone asked them why they didn't surrender, they said, because freedom matters more than life. The council chamber was completely silent now. Every being present was listening. So yes, Maria continued, you can destroy our 200 ships. You can bomb our cities. You can try to crush our spirit. But you need to understand what will happen. We won't surrender. We'll fight with every ship, every weapon, every soldier. When our ships are gone, we'll fight from our planets. When our planets burn, we'll fight from hidden bases. When you think you've won, we'll strike from the darkness. And here's the part that should terrify you. Maria's voice grew colder. We've prepared for this. We have colony ships hidden in places you'll never find. If Earth falls, they'll scatter to the galactic rim. They'll establish colonies, build weapons, and wage war against the Council for generations. Your children's children will still be fighting human guerrillas in the dark corners of space. Zekthor felt something he had not experienced in 300 years. Fear. You're bluffing, he said, but his voice wavered. Am I? Maria asked. Ask yourself this question, Ambassador. If we're bluffing, why aren't we trying to negotiate? Why aren't we begging for better terms? Why would we choose this path unless we were absolutely committed to it? She looked around at all the council members. You rule 847 species. How many of them truly wanted to accept your tribute? How many said yes because they were afraid? How many are watching this broadcast right now and feeling hope for the first time in centuries? Enough! Vexkol roared. This is treason against the Galactic Order. We will send a fleet to Earth immediately. We will show humanity the price of defiance. Send your fleet, Maria said quietly. We'll be waiting. But know this. Every ship you lose, every soldier who dies will be for nothing, because you cannot break a species that would rather burn than bow. And when other species see that humans stood against you and made you pay a price, they'll start to wonder. They'll start to ask questions. They'll start to remember that they were once free too. Maria's hologram began to fade. Earth's answer is no. If you want our tribute, you'll have to take it from our cold, dead hands. And I promise you, Ambassador, we'll make sure you pay for every drop of blood. The hologram vanished completely. For a long moment, nobody in the council chamber spoke. Then Vexcol slammed his fist on his console. Prepare the fleet. We'll show these arrogant primitives what happens to species who defy the council. But around the chamber, other council members looked uncertain. An ancient Vreldak elder, one of the oldest beings in the galaxy, spoke in a voice that carried across the chamber. In 10,000 years, I have seen many species join the council. I have seen them accept their place with grace or with fear, but I have never seen a species that knew it would lose and chose to fight anyway. That is not courage. That is something more dangerous. What? Asked a younger council member. That is a species that has nothing left to lose, the elder said. And such species are not defeated. They can only be exterminated. The question we must ask ourselves is this: are we willing to exterminate humanity? And if we are, what does that make us? Zekthor sat down slowly at his platform. He pulled up humanity's file again, reading through their history with new eyes. Wars that lasted years, resistance movements that fought for decades, revolutions against impossible odds. And then he found something that made his blood run cold. It was a quote from one of Earth's ancient texts. I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death. Humans had been saying this for hundreds of years. It was not a bluff. It was a warning. Zekthor realized that the council had made a terrible mistake. They had assumed humanity was like every other species, rational, practical, willing to compromise for survival. But humanity was not rational. They were something else entirely. They were willing to burn the galaxy down if it meant staying free. Admiral Kresh commanded the Council's enforcement fleet from his flagship, the Eternal Glory. It was one of the largest warships in the galaxy, 3 kilometers long and armed with enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Behind him followed 999 more warships, all perfectly organized in formation, 1,000 ships to crush 200. It would be over quickly. Kresh was a Thulian, a species that resembled large reptiles with 6 eyes and armored skin. His people had served the Council military for 4,000 years. He had put down 3 rebellions in his career. Each one had collapsed within days once they saw the fleet. Status report, Kresh ordered as they entered the solar system. We have entered human space, reported his sensor officer. Their sun is designated Sol by the locals. The 3rd planet is Earth, their homeworld. Any sign of their fleet? Negative, Admiral. No ships detected yet. They may be hiding near their planet. Kresh nodded. That was standard tactics for a defensive force. Wait until the last moment, then try to defend the home world. It never worked. All ships maintain formation. Proceed toward the 3rd planet at cruise speed. Charge all weapons. The fleet moved deeper into the solar system. They passed the orbit of the planet Jupiter, a massive gas giant with dozens of moons. That's when the sensors went crazy. Admiral, detecting multiple contacts. Thousands of them. The human fleet? Kresh asked. Negative, sir. These are smaller objects. They're coming from the asteroid belt. They're moving fast. On the holographic display, red dots appeared by the thousands. They swarmed toward the Council fleet like angry insects. Autonomous drones, Kresh said. Clever. But small drones cannot penetrate our shields. All-point defense systems, engage targets. The Council ships opened fire with laser batteries and automated guns. The first wave of human drones exploded in brilliant flashes. But there were so many of them. For every one destroyed, 3 more appeared. They're carrying nuclear warheads, shouted the sensor officer. Several drones broke through the defensive fire and crashed into Council ships. Nuclear explosions bloomed against the shields, draining their power. The shields held, but it took energy to absorb each blast. Status? Kresh demanded. Shields at 70% on most ships. No major damage yet, but Admiral, there are over 10,000 of these drones. They're wearing us down. Then we destroy them faster. Increase point defense fire. Continue advance. The fleet pushed forward, destroying drones by the hundreds. But the humans had hidden them throughout the entire solar system. Every asteroid, every moon seemed to have drone clusters waiting. Then the real attack began. Admiral, human fleet detected. 200 ships emerging from behind Earth's moon. Admiral James Park watched from the bridge of the ESS Unity, Earth's flagship. He was calm despite the battle beginning around him. He had spent 6 months preparing for this moment. All ships, Park said quietly into the communication channel. Execute attack pattern Leonidas. The human fleet split into 20 groups of 10 ships each. Instead of forming a defensive line, they accelerated directly toward the Council fleet at maximum speed. On the Eternal Glory, Kresh watched with confusion. What are they doing? That's suicide. They're not even trying to evade, sir. They're just charging straight at us. Then destroy them. All ships open fire. The Council fleet's weapons lit up space with energy beams and antimatter torpedoes. The first wave of human ships exploded immediately. 10 ships gone in seconds, but the remaining ships didn't slow down. They didn't retreat. They accelerated harder. They're insane, Kresh's weapons officer shouted. The human ships reached the Council fleet and did something no military force in galactic history had ever done on purpose. They rammed. The ESS Defiance, badly damaged and losing life support, aimed directly at a Council cruiser. At the last second, its captain activated the antimatter core self-destruct. The resulting explosion destroyed both ships and damaged 5 others nearby. Across the battlefield, human ships that were too damaged to continue fighting did the same thing. They became weapons. This isn't a battle, Kresh roared. They're throwing their lives away. It's working, sir, his tactical officer said quietly. We've lost 30 ships. They've destroyed over 100 of theirs, but they're taking us with them. Park watched the tactical display on the Unity. They were losing badly in terms of numbers, but that was expected. What mattered was making the Council pay a price. Second wave, advance. Focus on their command ships. Make every loss count. More human vessels charged forward. The Council fleet's formation broke apart as captains tried to avoid the ramming attacks. In space combat, coordination was everything. The humans were creating chaos. Then the moon fired. Humanity had spent 6 months converting the lunar surface into a fortress. Now massive railguns built into the moon's crust opened fire. These were not small weapons. They fired projectiles the size of buildings at a significant fraction of light speed. A Council battleship's shields failed under the barrage. The next projectile punched through the hull like paper, venting atmosphere and crew into space. Return fire on that moon, Kresh ordered. But firing on a moon required a lot of power. And while Council ships turned to attack the lunar base, the remaining human ships pressed their advantage. The battle continued for 4 hours. It was brutal and desperate. Human ships fought with a fury that shocked the Council forces. When their weapons failed, they rammed. When they were boarded, the human crews fought hand to hand in the corridors until everyone was dead. No surrender. No retreat. No mercy. On Mars, human colonists watched their brothers and sisters die in space. They knew they were next. The civilian population evacuated to underground bunkers while military forces prepared orbital defense platforms. Admiral Park's ship, the Unity, was surrounded by 3 Council vessels. His shields were gone. Life support was failing. Half his crew was dead. Admiral, his communication officer said, "The Council is hailing us. They're offering terms. Surrender now and they'll spare Earth." Park looked at the tactical display. 150 human ships destroyed. 600 Council ships destroyed or disabled. Do we have antimatter cores remaining? Park asked. Yes, sir. 3 torpedoes. Then we're not done yet. Helm, set collision course with their command ship. Communications, send a message to all human forces. Park leaned forward and spoke clearly. This is Admiral Park. Earth Defense Force does not surrender. Earth Defense Force does not retreat. We fight until we win or until we die. There is no third option. He paused, then added the words that every human child learned in school. Give them nothing. Take from them everything. The Unity accelerated toward the Eternal Glory on its final run. Kresh watched the damaged human ship coming toward him. He could destroy it easily, but something made him hesitate. Admiral, we should withdraw, his tactical officer said. We've lost too many ships. Withdraw? We still outnumber them. Yes, sir. But they're not fighting rationally. Every ship we destroy takes 1 or 2 of ours with it. At this rate, we'll win, but we'll lose half our fleet doing it. Kresh watched the Unity charge forward. It was bleeding air and fire from a dozen breaches. But it came on anyway. He thought about the human female on that hologram. Her words echoed in his mind. "We'll make sure you pay for every drop of blood." "Order fleet-wide withdrawal," Kresh said quietly. "Sir? We're leaving, now, before we lose any more ships." "But the Council ordered us to crush them." Kresh turned to his officer with cold eyes. "The Council ordered me to enforce their will. They did not order me to sacrifice my entire fleet, to exterminate a species that refuses to die. We are leaving." The Council fleet turned and retreated. The remaining human ships, 43 vessels still capable of fighting, pursued them for a while before Park ordered them back. When the Council fleet was gone, Park allowed himself to slump in his chair. His ship was dying around him, but Earth was safe. "Send a message to Earth Command," Park said. "Tell them we won." "Sir, we lost 157 ships. 3/4 of our fleet is gone." "We're alive," Park said. "They ran. That means we won." Back at the Council chambers, the broadcast of the battle had played for all to see. Representatives from 847 species watched in stunned silence as the human fleet made the Council forces retreat. The ancient Vreldak elder spoke again. "Now you see? Now you understand. Humanity did not bluff. They knew they would lose. They fought anyway." "They're monsters," someone whispered. "No," the elder corrected. "They are something we have forgotten how to be. They are free, and they will pay any price to stay that way." Zekthor reviewed the battle reports with shaking hands. 600 ships lost. 600! Against a species with primitive technology and desperate tactics. But what terrified him most was not the losses. It was the way humans fought. No hesitation. No surrender. Just pure absolute commitment to victory or death. If the Council sent the full fleet 10,000 ships, they could still win. But how many would they lose? 2,000? 5,000? And then what? The humans had said they had colony ships hidden away. They would keep fighting forever. For the first time in his 300 years of life, Zekthor understood fear. Not fear of death, fear of a species that had nothing to lose. "Perhaps," he said to himself, "we should reconsider our approach." 3 weeks after the battle, a single small ship approached Earth. It carried no weapons and flew with all identification signals active. This was not an invasion force. This was a diplomat. Ambassador Zekthor sat alone in the ship's passenger compartment. His 4 hands trembled slightly. He was afraid, and he had every right to be. He had watched the battle recordings dozens of times. Each viewing revealed something new and terrifying about humanity. The way they fought without fear. The way they turned their dying ships into weapons. The way they never, ever considered surrender. The Council had debated for 3 weeks about what to do. Some members wanted to send the full fleet and exterminate humanity completely. Others argued that humans had proven too costly to conquer. A few, mostly the older species, suggested something radical. Negotiation. Zekthor's ship was cleared to land at the same orbital station where he had first met the humans. As he walked through the corridors, he noticed the damage. Burn marks on the walls, sealed breaches. This station had been hit during the battle but had survived. Secretary General Maria Chen waited for him in the same conference room. She looked tired. Dark circles under her eyes suggested she had not slept much in 3 weeks. But her expression was calm and controlled. "Ambassador Zekthor," she said, "you're braver than I expected." "Or more desperate," Zekthor replied. He sat down without the usual formal greetings. "I came alone and unarmed. I came to talk." "Talk about what? More tribute demands?" "No." Zekthor felt strange saying that word. For 10,000 years, the Council had always dictated terms. "I came to understand something I clearly failed to understand before. Why would your species choose death over survival?" Maria poured 2 glasses of water. She slid one toward Zekthor. "Do you know what slavery is, Ambassador? Labor requirements for the good of civilization. That's what you call it. We call it slavery, taking people from their families, forcing them to work for decades. That's what you asked us to accept. Many species accept these terms without complaint, do they?" Maria asked. "Or do they just stop complaining because complaint is useless?" Zekthor was quiet for a moment. "I reviewed the historical records. In 10,000 years, only one species refused the Council's terms before you. The Krell. Yes, we destroyed them completely. We made them an example. It was meant to prevent future rebellions. Maria leaned forward. And what did you learn from that, Ambassador? That examples work, Zekthor said. No species challenged us for 8,000 years after the Krell. Wrong lesson, Maria said. What you should have learned is that the Krell were alone. They had no allies. No backup plan. No way to make their sacrifice matter. So you won by overwhelming force. We still have overwhelming force, but you didn't use it, Maria pointed out. You sent 1,000 ships. We destroyed 600. You retreated, why? Zekthor looked down at his hands. This was difficult to admit. Because my commanders calculated that destroying Earth would cost us 3,000 to 5,000 ships. Half our fleet, and even then you would escape. Your colony ships would spread into the galaxy and wage guerrilla warfare for generations. So you understood our message, Maria said. We can't beat you in a straight fight, but we can make winning so expensive that it's not worth it, and more importantly, we can inspire others. That's what terrifies the Council, Zekthor admitted. Your battle was broadcast across the galaxy. Billions of beings watched humans fight against impossible odds. They saw the Council fleet retreat. For the first time in 10,000 years, species under Council authority saw someone resist and survive. Good, Maria said coldly. Maybe they'll start asking questions. Zekthor pulled up a holographic display. It showed data from across Council space. They already are. We've detected increased military activity from 17 species. Not rebellion, not yet, but preparation. They're building ships, training soldiers. They watched what you did and they're getting ready to do the same. You created this system, Ambassador, a system based on fear and overwhelming force. You never considered what would happen when someone stopped being afraid. So what happens now? Zekthor asked. We can still destroy you. It will be costly, but we can do it. Should we commit to total war? Exterminate humanity and return to the old system? Maria was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was different. Less angry, more thoughtful. Let me tell you what I think is really happening here, Ambassador. I think the Council is scared. Not of our ships or our weapons. You're scared of what we represent. What do you represent? Change, Maria said. For 10,000 years, your system has worked. But it only worked because everyone accepted it. Now we've shown that acceptance is a choice. And if it's a choice, then species can choose differently. Zekthor nodded slowly. The Council is debating 3 options. Total war against humanity. Continued isolation where we ignore you and you ignore us, or, he hesitated. Or, Maria prompted, or we negotiate a new arrangement, not just with humanity, with all species under Council authority. Maria felt her heart beat faster. This was the moment everything had been building toward. I'm listening. Zekthor activated another display. This is a proposal drafted by the Elder Council members, the ones who remember when the Council was founded. It suggests returning to the original principles. Maria read through the document. Her eyes widened. This is a complete restructuring. No more tribute. Voluntary cooperation. Representative government. Mutual defense agreements. It's radical, Zekthor agreed. Many Council members oppose it. They say it will lead to chaos, that younger species need guidance. What they mean is control, Maria said. But yes, this would work. If it's real. There are conditions, Zekthor said. Humanity must agree to join the Council as an equal member. You must commit to defensive military operations only. No wars of conquest. And most importantly, you must support the peaceful transition of other species into the new system. You want us to help you dismantle your own empire, Maria said with surprise. We want you to help us transform it into something better, Zekthor corrected. Many Council species are tired of the old ways, but they're afraid of change. If humanity, the species that fought us and survived, endorses this new system, others will follow. Maria stood and walked to the window. Earth turned below, blue and beautiful and scarred from battle. What you're asking, she said slowly, is for humanity to become partners instead of enemies. Yes, and in exchange, we offer you what you were willing to die for. Freedom. Not just for humans, but for every species in Council space. Maria turned back to Zekthor. There's one more condition. Full disclosure. The Council must release all historical records. Every species needs to know the truth about what happened to the Krell. About every rebellion that was crushed. Complete transparency, Zekthor flinched. That will cause significant unrest. Good. Truth is always better than pretty lies. If you want to build a new system based on voluntary cooperation, it has to start with honesty. The Council will debate this for months. Then you have months, Maria said. But understand this, Ambassador. Humanity said no to your tribute. We'll say yes to genuine partnership. We'll even help you rebuild the Council into something worth joining. But if this is a trick, if you're just buying time to prepare a bigger attack, you'll regret it. That sounds like a threat. It's a promise, Maria said. We've already proven we're crazy enough to fight wars we can't win. Imagine what we'll do as allies to species who want freedom. Zekthor stood. I'll bring your terms to the Council. One more thing, Maria said as he turned to leave. Thank you. For what? For coming here alone. For being willing to talk. You're the first Council representative to treat us as equals instead of inferiors. That matters. Zekthor paused at the door. I watched the recording of your Admiral Park. His ship was dying and he still charged forward. That's when I understood. You're not inferior. You're not superior. You're just different. And perhaps the galaxy needs different right now. The negotiations took 4 months. Representatives from all 847 species participated, something that had never happened in Council history. There were arguments, debates, and near breakdowns. But slowly a new charter emerged. The Galactic Compact replaced the old tribute system. Species would contribute voluntarily to mutual defense and infrastructure. Resources would be shared through fair trade rather than extraction. Representation would be equal regardless of species age or military power. Most importantly, the new compact included a Bill of Rights. Freedom of choice, freedom to govern themselves, freedom to say no. Secretary General Maria Chen stood before the reformed Council Assembly. Behind her, Admiral Park and the other human representatives waited. Around them, thousands of beings from hundreds of species watched. 50 years ago, Maria began, my grandfather told me a story. He said that freedom is not something given. It's something claimed. He was right. But today I learned something more. Freedom claimed by one can inspire freedom for all. She looked around the chamber. Humanity said one word, no. We were willing to die for that word. But we're even more willing to live for what comes after. Partnership, cooperation, mutual respect. The old Council ruled through fear. The new compact will thrive through hope.